woman wakes up with no memory of who she loves, who she trusts, or who wants her dead. She spits out her medication anyway. That single act of defiance is what sets fire to everything in Silo Season 3, Episode 3. An episode that finally answers the question fans have been chewing on since the season began. Is Lukas Kyle actually alive? And by the end of the hour, there's a much darker question sitting on the table. Is the woman who runs this entire silo about to order the death of its own mayor? Stick with me.
As you've said, we now have the opportunity to eliminate that threat and save the silo.
Because this episode moves on two timelines, decades apart, and both of them end up circling the same idea. Institutions don't protect people. They protect the story they've decided to tell about people. Let's break down exactly what happens, why it matters, and what it's setting up next. The past, a funeral, a confession, a firing. We open in the flashback timeline, years before anyone in Silo 18 was born, at a memorial service for a pilot named Juan Alameda. Juan never made it back from a bombing run over Iran, the same mission that Charlotte, Daniel's sister, barely survived. Daniel corners Juan's brother James after the ceremony, and what James reveals quietly reshapes the entire mystery. The planes on that mission were flying with outdated, unencrypted communications equipment, which means, technically, anyone with the right gear could have picked up the pilot's chatter that day. There might be a recording out there. Somewhere. Still, James doesn't want to chase it. He's tired, he's grieving, and he visibly stiffens the moment a man named Henry walks into the room. The commanding officer who ran that mission. That reaction tells you everything. James isn't scared of the truth. He's scared of what happens to him and his family if he goes looking for it. Henry doesn't waste time either. He shows up at Helen's workplace and gets her fired on the spot. A warning shot dressed up as an HR decision. But here's the thing about telling a journalist to back off. It rarely works. Helen loses her job, but not her nerve. She dives into the dark web and tracks down a man who claims to have exactly the recording they're looking for. Steve, the tape, and the thing no one can explain. That man is Steve, and meeting him is its own kind of unsettling. He works out of a cramped basement, confiscates their phones the moment they walk in, and photographs Daniel's government badge, insurance, in case he ever needs to lean on a congressman later. Steve loves leverage. It's basically his whole personality. At first, he admits the recording exists and then clams up completely. It's only when he learns that one of the voices on that tape belongs to Daniel's own sister that something shifts in him, and he hands over the recording. What's on it is brutal. The pilots are audibly working out in real time that some kind of black substance, almost like living sludge, is disabling their aircraft, and there's nothing they can do to stop it. Daniel and Helen sit there listening to Charlotte's final minutes in the sky, and it wrecks them. Neither of them understands what that substance actually is yet, but we do. And that gap between what the characters know and what we know is exactly what makes this flashback so uncomfortable to watch. Daniel wants to go back for a second listen, hunting for anything they missed. But when he and Helen return to Steve's apartment, it's been torn apart. Steve is gone. The obvious read is that Henry got there first, but there's another possibility worth sitting with. Maybe Steve caught wind that someone dangerous was coming for him and staged the wreckage himself to fake an abduction and disappear on his own terms. The episode never tells you which one it is. That ambiguity is deliberate. This isn't a show that hands out clean answers, even in its flashbacks. Juliette stops taking her medicine. Now to the present day, and to the moment that gives this episode its title. Juliette has been walking around Silo 18 medicated into a version of herself that barely resembles the mayor everyone remembers. But she's cut a quiet deal with Jerry, her assigned tail. He backs off. She doesn't pull another disappearing act like she did in the market. With that breathing room, she spits her pills into her hand instead of swallowing them and sets off to find Lukas. Camille finds out almost immediately. Her informant, Amy, reports that Juliette isn't taking her meds, and Camille's response is telling. She doesn't panic. She tells Amy to keep dosing her as if nothing changed, so Juliette never realizes she's been made. From there, Juliette starts pulling on every thread she can find. She corners Kat at Paul's house, using a fresh wrist injury as proof that Kat was involved in a raid tied to the Outsiders. Kat eventually caves, insisting Lukas is dead, burned along with everyone else during the rebellion, and that Kennedy is on the run. Then Juliette tracks down Robert, hoping he can tell her anything about Lukas's final days. Robert can't offer much, but he's furious that Juliette doesn't remember terrifying his son Anthony during a hostage situation last season. She has no memory of it. He has to live with it every day. That imbalance, one person haunted, the other blank, is some of the most quietly devastating material in the whole episode. The algorithm wants a reset, not a rescue. Behind closed doors, Camille is arguing with the algorithm itself. Her pitch is almost pragmatic. Let Juliette keep chasing her memories, and she'll lead them straight to Lukas and Kennedy. Take out the source of the rebellion, and there's no need for the nuclear option, dumping vitamin D+ into the water supply to wipe every resident's memory at once. The algorithm isn't interested in nuance. It orders Camille to proceed with the mass memory protocol anyway, and reminds her that the safeguard protocol is waiting in the wings if she doesn't comply. Camille backs down, for now, but notice what this scene actually establishes. Camille isn't a true believer, she's calculating. And people who calculate can eventually be talked into calculating differently. Meanwhile, Robert pushes back on his own front. He wants Anthony to hold on to memories of his parents. Camille's counter-argument is chilling in its own quiet way. If Anthony stays emotionally tied to the silo, he won't be able to leave it behind when the moment finally comes. Forgetting, in her mind, is mercy. It's one of the episode's clearest illustrations of how easily cruelty gets repackaged as protection. The mines become a trap. Juliette's search eventually leads her toward the mines, chasing a rumor that Lukas has been digging toward a neighboring silo. Camille reaches the same conclusion, and instead of confirming it first, she orders the mines fumigated with rat-killing gas while workers are still down there. Chris warns her explicitly that people could die. Camille's answer essentially, if Lukas is one of the rats, it's worth the risk. The fumigation goes exactly as badly as that decision deserves. Miners start collapsing. Juliette straps on a gas mask and goes in after them, and true to form, her instinct to save strangers outweighs her instinct for self-preservation. The one panicked miner steals her mask on the way out, leaving her to choke on the fumes she just risked her life to clear. That's when Lukas appears. He's been in hiding this entire time, avoiding exactly this kind of exposure, and he blows his cover anyway to pull Juliette out. The raiders spot him almost instantly. He barely escapes with help from two allies, Sandy and Danny, vanishing again just as quickly as he appeared. And as the bodies are pulled from the mines, Paul finds Orla among them. A woman who'd been missing since episode 1, and whose disappearance now looks a lot less like a personal grudge, and a lot more like something she stumbled onto in supply. The ending. Why would Camille kill Juliette? By the closing minutes, Juliette is unconscious in recovery, her body wrecked from the gas. It's the perfect opening for Amy to quietly resume the memory suppression treatment without any resistance. But the conversation between Camille and the algorithm goes somewhere much colder than that. Here's the logic, laid out plainly. Juliette's survival is what's giving the silo hope. Hope is what fuels rebellion. If Juliette dies now, in the mines, a hero, saving her own people, that hope collapses on its own. No memory wipe required. No visible fingerprints from judicial or IT. Just a tragic accident that quietly ends the possibility of resistance for good. Camille hesitates. And the algorithm doesn't let her forget the hostage situation from last season, framing Juliette not as a person, but as a permanent structural risk. Whether Camille actually intends to go through with it is the open question the episode leaves hanging. If she's lying to the algorithm to buy Juliette time, that's a genuinely dangerous game. This is a system built to detect exactly that kind of deception. And if she's telling the truth, then somebody is going to need to get Juliette out of that recovery room before Camille finishes weighing her options. Lukas is still out there. So are Sandy and Danny. That's very likely where episode 4 picks up. So here's where it leaves us. Lukas is alive, but exposed. Juliette is unconscious, but closer to the truth than she's ever been. Camille is standing at a decision that will either make her a monster or turn her into an unlikely ally. And somewhere in a dark web basement, a man named Steve has vanished with the one piece of evidence that could blow the Iran cover-up wide open. What do you think? Does Camille go through with it, or does she finally turn on the algorithm she's supposed to serve? Drop your theory in the comments, and I'll see you for the episode 4 breakdown.